Greetings and welcome to Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin Umesiri. Today I'm continuing the series on creative consciousness, and I would like to dive into this concept of your higher self, your lower self, and your inner self. Because once you start creating, once you move into the realm of creativity, problem solving, creating solutions for the world, one of the things that you would have to unpack is your inner reality, because this is the platform, the world of imagination, the world of computation, the world of thoughts, the world of beliefs. This inner world is actually your platform, your template for sketching, designing, producing what you want to see in the outer world. Most of the time, however, most people who do not travel into this journey of creative consciousness, activating their divine nature, most people live out of the lower self, this concept of the physical nature, the five senses, where people move through life in search of their desires, their dreams, their goals, achievement of goals, primarily through the five senses, what they see, touch, smell, hear, right? When you move through the world, looking for something, trying to achieve something, trying to attract or pursue whatever it is you want to pursue, primarily only through your five senses, right? That's your lower self. And that's where many people get stuck, because if that is all you have within you, then in a way, there's a lot of limitations to the lower self. What if what you want doesn't already exist in the third dimension, in the natural world? Well, people get stuck because they can't find it, right? If it's not in the natural world, it's still in the divine world, and somebody's got to create it with their belief system, with their energy, with the force, and bring it into the natural world, because creativity is about bringing something new into the natural world. So lower self, those who live out of the lower self continue to remain in dependency, meaning what other people have created is what they can participate in. What already exists is what they can experience. So if it's not there, okay, if they cannot perceive it, if they cannot see it in the natural world, many times it leads to a lot of dysregulated emotions. Okay, I'm connecting a lot of things together, right? Remember last week I talked about the creative power of your emotions, right? So your emotions is the first thing you're going to create. And when people don't create internally, but they are in search of something that they are making assumptions already exists, it leads to dysregulated emotions, because suddenly the physical body is like, where is it, right? People have been set up, okay, to expect something that is not there, or something they don't have the power to attract, power to comprehend, power to participate in. Now, when you move into your higher self, this is the world of abundance. This is the world that doesn't have any limits. This is the world where you can dream, you can become, you can go places in your inner self. You can even imagine things that doesn't exist. You can go to space, you can go to the moon, you can go to Mars in your mind, and then come into the natural world and try to create it, right? So there is an unlimited possibility, unlimited potential in that world of inner self, in the world of your divine nature, is that all things are possible, okay? But you have to make what you want possible. So that's the difference, is that in the realm of the divine nature, you can do anything, technically, but then to narrow yourself, to be intentional, to focus on what it is you are deciding to convey, to carry with your own energy, with your own vessel, what you want for yourself, for your life. That's one of the things that is required. And this is what we call clarity. Okay? Yes, in the world of divine, You can do anything, you can go anywhere. But when you move into your inner self requires you to be clear with a vision, to have a picture, to be intentional of what you want to create now, the space in which you want to enter in the future. One of the things I also teach on is this concept of space and time. You see, space is something that you create. It's like an architect. You create a space, but in time, you experience it. So you can create today what you want to experience tomorrow. But if you don't create today, tomorrow you are going to experience what existed yesterday. Right? So one of the things that happen is people have dreams, people have hope, but they're not creating. They're not producing. And so what you don't create for yourself, what you don't attract for yourself, what you are not intentional to draw onto yourself, your future self doesn't experience. Right? Your future self cannot move into a space you haven't manifested, you haven't created in imagination, you haven't produced, you haven't even, right? You've not even seen it as possible for you. So that inner self is where you create possibilities for yourself. This is where you have to believe that what it is you desire, you want to achieve, and you're going to use your vessel, your energy, your being to attract it, to become it, to attract it. This concept of becoming is that your natural self, the lower self, has to embody the energetic imprint to attract your desire. I know I'm going into a lot of advanced concepts here, but I'm hopefully trying to also teach it in a very easy to understand way. Okay, so I appreciate that you're going with me. But if you have any questions, do comment, do send a message, email toyin@umesiri.com, or check me on LinkedIn. So if ever you want to follow, you want to ask a question, you want me to go deeper, or you want to recommend a topic for me to go deeper on, please engage online as well. So we're talking today about your higher self, your lower self, and your inner self. And I've explained that the lower self uses 5 senses to pursue whatever you need in the natural: food, clothing, shelter, right? And so there's dependency on other people that are creative. So the things other people have created, the spaces other people have created, the products and services other people have created, you get to participate. You go in search of that, you participate in that, and then you pay. In the world of commerce, you pay with energetics, you pay with money to participate in somebody else's creation, right? When you want to create entrepreneurship, when you want to be an entrepreneur, right, business owner, innovator, right, this is when you start moving out of dependency. You start moving more into what do you have within you, your own inner reality, your own skills, right? And that unlocks, right? Because when people don't believe and don't decide, don't make a decision to use their higher self, and they don't, right, participate in this inner world of creativity, okay, many people get stuck on complaining. So some of the things that is a characteristics of people who live out of the lower self versus higher self is that higher self creates. Those who live only in the natural lower self, there's a lot of complaining, right? Because complaining is about you desire something, but people are not able to hold what they desire. It hasn't arrived, right? They desire a world that they've not seemed to experience. They believe things will be a certain way, but it has turned out not to be the way they made right? They thought it would be this way, but it turned out to be another way. And so it doesn't align with their assumption, right? And realize this is not about creativity. This is reality that many people experience simply because they've not activated their creative potential. Because if you activate your creative potential, then people are more gentle with reality, because you know creation takes time. It takes investment, it takes focus, it takes all of you right? And so those who create tend not to complain because there's understanding, right? There's inner standing, understanding, overstanding in the world of creativity, where we tend to actually appreciate life and enjoy the journey more. Those who are in the creative space, they have a more sweeter, gentler, joyful approach to moving through life because life is moving through them, right? They are part of life, right? And they know that a lot of the things they want to see is waiting for them to participate in that creativity. So they are gentle on life and they are gentle on themselves. And so they are more joyful because if they say hurry up, they have to come back to themselves and ask themselves, what have you done today to be asking life to hurry up? Right? Right? Because ultimately, your own emotion, energy in motion, your own motion, your own action, you know your action is part of the creative process of what it is that you want. So in a way, you are part of the equation of what it is you want to see. So there's personal accountability, right? You hold yourself accountable in the expectations that you have, the demands you want to make of the world. You're not just feeling entitled that the world must present you what it is that you desire, where you desire it, how you desire it. And if it doesn't present the way you desire, then you go, oh, the world is this, the world is that. Creative people don't do that because they know that the world they want to see, that they are part of that equation, that they are part of that process, that their own emotions, their own investment, their own energy is part of unlocking, it's part of shaping the world. If they want the world to look the way they want it to look, then they have to do the work to shape it the way they want. So creative people complain less. They are more accountable. They take more action in the direction of their desire. They are more invested in shaping the world. They shape themselves to shape the world. And so those are some of the things that you can see that is different. The tendency for lower self is that they get stuck. This concept of getting stuck is that people who have believed what they should not believe have gone in a direction they ought not to have gone. And so what they believed and the direction they conceived led them to a place that they weren't expecting. This is the practice of asking questions, right? Higher self asks questions, don't make assumptions. Higher self experiments, and they know how to test and try and retreat and test and retreat until they find the winning recipe. So higher self is more in a lab. Life is more of a laboratory. Let's see what works. Okay, let's try this. So there's experimentation in higher self to discover the answer that solves the equation. So higher self has activated the inner self into solving. And in order to solve, you may need to answer a series of questions to find which one would unlock the door. And so that practice in of itself, higher self embodies the patience that if you try this and it's not proven to be the answer, you backtrack, right? It's the scientist, okay? The scientist in us that doesn't conclude that just because you tried something and it didn't work the first time, you go, oh no, nothing is working, right? The scientist in you ought to know that life requires a series of attempts, right? In my school, there's a program called 30 Keys to Unlock Success. And I say success is like a combination lock. What combination is going to unlock what you want for you? That's the scientist, that's the innovator, that's the creative side, is you don't give up just because you tried once or twice or 3 times in attempts to create what you want to create. You keep trying different combinations, right? And you don't give up. So that scientist framework is part of the creative consciousness. Whereas those who live in the lower side of reality, They try once, it doesn't work, and they stay there. And once they're there, it then becomes a pattern of behavior. Complaining, what got you there, right? And this it results in a lot of inner struggle, inner reality, where people, right, what part of the skill of creativity is how do you take yourself out of the lower self? Where there's a lot of dysregulated emotions, negativity, it creates a lot of lower order perspective, complaining, all of those things, blaming. How do you take yourself from that space of negativity? Because that's not creative, that is being stuck. Negativity doesn't create anything but dysregulated emotions, right? And stories of what didn't happen and what people don't want, or what's they experienced that they never wanted to experience. How do you close that loop and go into more of a hope and go into more of a faith, positive outlook that allows you to keep moving forward, right? Higher self says, that's fine. Get out of that loop, okay? That simulation of things not clicking. Come back again. Can you try again, right? So the higher self helps the lower self to come out, try again, see if it works, assess, try again. Okay, so keep trying again until it clicks and you get the results you want. So that's some of the relationship between unlocking your higher self. Because when people want to create in the lower self, they need motivation. You need inspiration. You need the energy that keeps flowing, right? Because being stuck, energy doesn't flow anymore. People lose momentum. People stop creating. People give up. That's the realm where people give up. It's a stressful place where the lower self is trying to create, right? Now, but when you move on to your higher self, you can resource more energy, right? Particularly if you're an entrepreneur, you need this. You can get more energy when you do things like spiritual practices of quietness, of retreats, of self-reflection, of asking yourself questions, of going within yourself, because the creative consciousness side of you actually requires you to spend more time with yourself. Let me say that again, right? The creative side of you requires you to spend more time with yourself because the answer is within you. The guidance lives inside you. Hope is inside you. All of the tools for creativity only gets presented to you when you are quiet. Right? So that's one of the secrets of unlocking your inner self, quietness, because the lower self is busy. You see, you're living in a very busy world, very noisy world. Go, 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 go. And the physical body loves it. We love to experience this high energy in the physical, like we're busy, we're doing something. We love to go in and out. We pack our calendars with a lot of meetings to meetings, back to back. And then we go to lunch, and then we're eating lunch at the desk. Like the lower self is busy, and it's, right? The body likes it, right? We like it. We love it. Now, that's lower self creativity in the physical body, right? Embodiment. The creative side of your higher self actually likes the quietness, right? Peace, right? Your inner self loves quiet. It loves peace. It loves joy, slow music. There's a lot of inner care. We talk about self-care, but many people focus only on the physical side. The programs I've unlocked in my school, I'm talking about nurturing the side of you that is most powerful, that is most creative, that can solve for you what your lower self cannot solve with 5 senses. And you need to nurture it. And that inner self also requires you to do a lot of inner healing, right? Because the noise of the things people have not addressed for 20, 30 years, okay, can be the noise that stops people from creating a better world, a better future for themselves. So there's emotional processing tools baked into creativity, because to access the purest side of you, that sees the world almost like a child that plays with the opportunity to be joyful, to be creative. That side of many people can be under a lot of unprocessed emotions, right? Is that when people get quiet, if the first voices are not pleasant, people go out of that space and they start rushing, they start their day going out into the world. But when you come back again and you want to rest, the voices inside you, right, before you sleep, you need to quiet it. So there's a lot of inner healing, inner work, emotional processing tools that helps you prepare yourself for creation, right? Because creativity requires peace and quiet. And so when people have a lot of inner narrative that they haven't resolved, things in their personal lives that they haven't brought to a place of peace and joy, it can impact people's ability to create, to participate in higher self. So one of the journey you have to make, it's almost like climbing out of a realm of lower thoughts, lower experiences, lower like relationships, noise, a lot of noise in the system. Physics, noise, energetics is you have to try to resolve what is not allowing you to experience inner peace. Okay? So inner peace is the platform that allows you to be able to paint a very beautiful inner reality for yourself. Okay? So that's one of the assignments for those who want to go from lower self creativity to higher self creativity is you have to unpack whatever is going on internally that is not going to support your future. You have to let go of baggages of the past. You have to let go of whatever stories you're carrying around that is not going to help you create the future that you desire. Whatever is not supporting the future you want, you have to resolve it. You have to finish it like an unfinished business. And then out of that becomes a fresh you, a fresh perspective, a fresh opportunity to see positive side of life and contribute positively towards life as well. Another thing, as I start to wrap up, another reality, those who stay in the lower self, is they tend to blame, right? So there's complaining, what you want, you're not experiencing, right? But blaming is putting responsibility out into the world, what you are responsible for, okay? People who make other people responsible. And that in of itself too, it creates negative emotions, right? Because now people have given their power away. They're expecting other people to create what it is they want. They send negativity out into the world and it bounces back. And so that's one of the things I will encourage you to, as much as possible, move away from. I'm not sure if it's 100% for, right? But at least catch yourself. Whenever you feel the need to make other people responsible for whatever it is you're experiencing, try to check that and tell a different stories that bring peace. Because as I start to wrap up, your central nervous system, right, you don't want to activate it into fight, flight, freeze. Because whenever people blame people, then the mind says, what do you want us, right? What do you want to do about that, right? And it goes into, is it fight? Because whenever you make something a problem, the mind is going to try to resolve it. What you don't resolve consciously, with intentionality, into a place of peace, the autopilot's mind, internal reality, will still try to do something about it. And it may do something that is not positive. I'm laughing because this is where I talk about the central nervous system activation, feelings and emotions. And if you leave things negative, if you tell negative stories, your internal system will pick that negative story and manifest it and do something with it and keep it takes the pattern that you create, the person that you are, who you've decided to be, and the mind does more of it while you're sleeping, consciously, subconsciously, and then it attracts more of what you say is happening to you. There's a science to belief and internal narrative. So that's why I'm encouraging you to, as much as possible, resolve things, bring it to a place of peace, so that your internal system moves on to the next thing and moves on to the next thing. And then think in positive ways, because your mind, your system, internal system will continue where you stop. When you're sleeping particularly, it will finish the work you started. Right? If you don't finish it with peace, if you leave it as any form of negativity, the mind will be, right? The mind doesn't tell the difference, because negative energy creates, positive energy creates. They are both creative. The choice you have is to attempt as much as possible to be on the positive lane, and then to self-correct, particularly in the morning, right? Because the mind just takes what it is you've said, that you desire, that you want. Whatever you say is happening, your mind makes it happen. It goes into the realms of imagination and consciousness and downloads for you the finished product of whatever it is you downloaded, you said within yourself. And that's one of the biggest things many people may not realize, is that your mind is doing what you are doing and doing more of it. So one of the ways of retraining yourself, your internal system, is to be bringing things to peace, bringing it to joy, and then sleeping on that. Sleeping on that. And then in the morning, you're going to realize that you're going to wake up excited for the day, because you slept with a calmer frame. Right? So this part of creativity is particularly in the sleeping mode, right? Try and resolve the day's demands with a place of peace, and then you wake up in the morning more energized, because the mind is not busy producing negative stories while you're sleeping, right? Right? Because if you stop the day a certain way, you're submitting it to your automatic system, you're submitting it to the mind to finish, and then to in the morning to tell you what's next. So you're going to wake up more energized, ready to create, with more joy. If you can discipline, if you can apply some higher self-disciplines, right? That's why the higher self, divine nature, goes more into peace, forgiveness, patience, right? Letting go. Why? Not just because of the external world. It's because what happens within you when you don't do that is that your mind continues to use the fight, flight, freeze mode to produce your life, to produce your reality, and you're attracting more of the things you say you don't like, simply because you are not more intentional with how you're using your vessel, how you're using your system, and what it is you're creating. So lower self tends to create negativity unintentionally by not activating higher self spiritual laws, by not practicing intentionality, focus, by not disciplining themselves. They are still creating, but they are creating lower order. When you want to move to your higher self, you have to unpack higher spiritual laws that use it to govern you. You have to learn peace, patience. You have to cultivate a lot of spiritual practices, because your inner self works a certain way, and it works really fast to give you whatever it is you're producing with your thoughts, with your beliefs, with your inner realities. Thank you so much for joining me today on Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin Umesiri. Feel free to join me online as well on LinkedIn as Toyin, Coach Toyin Umesiri. I hope to see you again next week. God bless you. Bye.